Hey everyone, it's Paul here with Toolmetrics, and I've got a cool tool to assemble today, and I'm going to do just an unboxing video for today, and then I'll use this tool for a while and do a deep dive exam after I have a little bit more runtime with it and more familiarity. But the tool is the Supermax 1632 drum sander, and I've been watching this for quite a while now, really studying up on it, and there's a couple things that I'm really keen about that is kind of the innovation in this product. First, the quick raise and lower mechanism, which is unique for a drum sander, so you can get to the depth that you're after really quickly. Also, the IntelliSand feature, which is really the idea with that is it's there to help minimize the potential for burning, and I have had burning on drum sanders before, so, and getting the feed rate just right and the pressure and so forth, so it's really there to help with that, so I'll definitely be taking a look at that. I'm also really interested in the optimization that's been put into the dust collection on this system, and so there's a turbo action inside of the drum sander that kind of feeds the dust out the chute and improves the dust collection. Their claim is by up to 15%, and drum sanders are notoriously tricky for dust collection, and so that's an area that I'll be really keying in on as well. And so those are the areas that I'm most excited about, just the general overall fit and finish and power and capabilities. I'll be looking at all that, but for today, again, I'm just going to take a look at the contents of these packages. I've got the base unit, which includes the sander as well as the stand. I also have a couple of options. The extensions for the bed, which fold down, and I think that's kind of a neat design. I've got the caster set so I can keep it mobile in my shop. And then I've got the expandable roller conveyor for feeding longer pieces into the sander, which I think is kind of a neat idea as well to help maintain quality if you're feeding, 8-foot or even longer material through this, to have that feed mechanism to kind of keep it level as it goes in. So what I'll do is just kind of open this up, and you can see kind of in real time what is in the package, and then I'll go through the assembly process and just to show you some highlights for that, and I'll take it to the point where I'm running the first board through. All right, so here's the main box that has the sander and the stand in it. So I'll just pop that open. You can get a glimpse at what's inside. So everything is really well packaged. Came in no damage. Some styrofoam blocks to hold things in place. And there's the unit itself. Got a manual. And I'm guessing that this is the stand. It is very heavy. And some assembly tools and hardware. And the rest is the main unit itself. So I'm going to just leave that in there for now and get the stand set up. All right, let's open up the stand box. See what we have inside. All right, bag of hardware. And the stand pieces. This looks like some cross member kind of pieces. This looks like one of the legs, perhaps. Good rigid, heavy gauge steel. Assembly looks to be pretty straightforward, so we'll get all these pieces out and start getting them assembled. So I'm just getting everything loose, fit together now so that I can get everything aligned, and then I'll tighten everything down so we'll get a good alignment before I lock anything in here. All right, I got all the hardware put together now. I'm just going to stand it up on this dead flat surface and let it kind of stabilize. Then I'm going to use this and kind of gun everything together. All right, I'm actually going to just cut the box out from around the drum sander. It's bolted to a piece of plywood underneath of it, and so I want to just kind of clear it out, and then I'll be able to deal more easily with the bolts and free up the sander. All right, we just have 4 bolts mounting it to these 2 pieces of scrap plywood. Just going to pull those out before we set it up on the stand. All right, here's the fun part of the project. I'm going to lift this sander up and set it on there. If you've got an extra set of hands, you might want to do that, but it's not too bad. And we'll just get everything lined up and attach it in with 4 bolts, and we're all set. On the front end of the video, I talked about the key features that I really like, and I forgot to mention this one. This is a digital readout so that you can measure exactly the thickness of the material as you're sanding it, and in real time. So I really like this idea, and so I just took it out, put the batteries in it, and I'm going to pop it back into the machine. All right, the next step is to remove the sandpaper from the drum and then align the drum so that it's parallel with the bed so you get a consistent sanding surface all the way across. So I'm just going to go through some calibration steps and determine that, and then we should be ready to fire it up. All right, I'm not parallel, I'm off by about a 1/16 of an inch, as you can see there. So what I've done is loosened up these 4 screws, and now I'm going to just use this adjustment screw to dial in the other way so that it just kisses the board. Okay, I'll tighten these down and then we'll test the other side to make sure we're parallel. It's a nice simple adjustment mechanism. Well, in all my excitement, I forgot to install the infeed and outfeed tables, but now I'm going to go ahead and do that. I did the other side and it went fine, pretty straightforward. A little bit putsy. You want to just really take your time and get it dialed in exactly so get yourself a good straight edge. Just take your time and you'll do just fine. All right, I also got this conveyor system for feeding long pieces in. I'm not going to set this up right now, but when I get into the in-depth deep dive, I will. But it's a very high quality piece of gear, and I will definitely give this a whirl and tell you about it in the deep dive. For now, I'm just going to go back and fire up the sander and see what it can do. All right, now that I've got it completely assembled and ready to go, before I dive in and run a quick test on it, let me just share some observations. So overall, build quality is very impressive, particularly for a machine in this price range. Kind of actually surprised me at the build quality and the robustness of the machine. A couple other things. One, the variable speed, infinite variable speed, so you can dial in exactly the feed rate that makes sense for your depth of cut and for the materials that you're running. The IntelliSand feature, we've got a light here that's going to indicate when the motor is under a little bit too much load. That can also be a good warning to you to lighten up a little bit on the cut. The digital readout that can tell me exactly the distance between the drum head and the conveyor belt. That's really nice. So now you know your final output thickness to a very close degree. And I think the coolest thing on this machine that I've never seen before on a drum sander is this quick adjustment mechanism, to where you have, of course, the fine adjustment mechanism, so you're able to turn in 1/64th increments. Each quarter turn is a 1/64th of an inch. So that's really important, because as you're making adjustments for multiple passes, you want to do it at a really slow rate and really controlled rate. But if you want to go from the maximum height down to something, that's maybe 1/8 of an inch or something like that, you can get there really quickly by putting it into quick adjustment mode, by just flipping the switch, and then look at that. Look at how quickly you can get down, and then with the digital readout, I can tell I'm at 7/32 of an inch. Just like that. No sitting there spinning and making me go crazy. So I really like that feature. I like the stand and the casters. The stand was simple to put together. It feels very solid, and these casters are really nice. So now let's go ahead and fire it up and see what it can do. All right, here's the moment of truth. I've got a piece of cherry that's planed and ready to go, and I'm going to run it through. I've got a line drawn on it to verify that the sander's actually doing anything. And I'm going to fire up the dust collector. You want to do that when you're using a drum sander. It's really important to have good dust collection. So I'm going to fire that up and then turn on the sander, run it through, and see how we do. Wow, I'm really excited about the surface finish that put on here. This is going to be a neat tool to have in my arsenal. I'm going to spend some time with this, using it for some projects and so forth, and I'll put it through its paces, and then I'll come back to you with a deep dive video. In the meantime, please feel free to ask any questions down below, and if you have not already subscribed to the Toolmetrics channel, please do so for more woodworking and DIY videos.